This is my farm. Wait, hold on. This isn't my farm. This is my farm. In our first 100 days, it went rather well. We lost the egg hunt, and we got a gift of clay? Yeah, but it wasn't all bad. We raised a farm just full of animals. But this year it would be different. And this is unchained. We're allowed to use whatever crops we want. We're allowed to use whatever animals, whatever crops. We're allowed to do whatever we need to do to build up our farm. So let's get straight into the video. Let's do it. We start off at day number 1, aka day 113, by getting a visit from Kent, who apparently has just come back from overseas. I don't know. However, I went to Pierre's, and now we had seeds unlocked. I decided to buy a absolute crap ton. However, I was going to need a place to put all these seeds, so we cleared an area, and of course this took a lot of energy, so that was our first night already completed. On day 114, I decided to go and visit Clint and retrieve my golden pickaxe, and obviously I had to take it for a spin. So I mined a few different things, collected some eggs, and then went all the way over to the mines with some bombs in our hands and farmed a load more resources. And then cooked up some resources just before I went to bed for the evening. A few days had passed, and on day 116 our mayonnaise empire was still growing. We was getting so many eggs and making a bunch of mayonnaise. I then decided that I was going to need a kind of layout for our farm, as the sprinklers only do a 3x3 area. So I made a few normal sprinklers and put down our first crops with some high quality fertilizer. So we put down some yams and some cauliflowers, and we just, yeah, it was the first time we've ever planted crops on our farm. It was pretty cool to see. And then decided to make it look a little bit nicer by adding a tiny little wall around the perimeter. After a long day of work, it was time to head to bed. On day 117, I went and inspected my crops, and they seemed to be all doing very, very well. I then went over to Pierre's and purchased the £10,000 bag upgrade. But we have the deluxe pack, and our inventory is now 32 slots. I then planted some other types of crops, and then moved my little furnace area down to the left side of our farm, as this would just allow us to have more space. I then delivered Emily a fresh fruit and got some gold for completing it. Obviously, we were still missing some sprinklers, so I added those into our little new farm area as well. On day 119, it was a really sunny day, so I decided what's better to do than inspect my farm and then go buy some animals. So that's exactly what I did. I decided I was going to buy a few rabbits. Now these can actually go in the coops, so it was really lucky that we had all these coops, so I could throw a little Trozzy into our little farm. And look how cute he is! Little Trozzy is going to be the best rabbit pet ever. I then had an assignment to deliver some eggs over to Gus in his saloon, so we done just that, and we got ourselves 3,000 gold. And then it was time to head to bed. On day 120, for completed the Gus thing, we got a mini fridge in the post. I don't know, but our crops had finally started to grow, and it was time for our first harvest. After harvesting a few different things such as cauliflowers and everything like that, I decided I would spend the rest of the day moving some farms, and we actually leveled up our farming. On day 122, I collected some yams. A lot of yams. Literally, we had so many. This is great. Our farming enterprise was starting to boom, and it was going great. And then I bought another little chicken and named him Chepo. Look at little Chepo. We had a lot of eggs in here as well. After a long day of farming, I decided I was going to go into the quarry mines. I didn't know what was exactly in here, but I quickly found out that there were some bad creatures in here. These flying skulls absolutely destroyed me, and I ended up dying. On day 125, I decided I wasn't going to the mines, and I was just going to pick some beans instead. However, it actually turned out to be the day of the egg festival, so it was actually selling some strawberries, so I loaded up as much as I can, and it was time to start the egg hunt. Last year, we lost the egg hunt to Abigail, but this year, we was going to absolutely smoke her, and I was ready to try and get as many eggs as possible. It was time for the egg hunt to begin, so this time I was not going to lose to Abigail. I was making sure I was trying to collect as many eggs as possible. I had 15 seconds left and I had 6 eggs, which I thought was pretty good. And it turned out I actually collected 7 eggs. Would this actually be enough to beat Abigail? Or anyone else in the egg hunt for a fact? Who knew? So it turns out that Abigail won again. Listen, I don't like Easter. I figured this out. Abigail's cheating. After being cheated at the egg festival, I decided to plant some strawberries and swiftly head to bed. On day 126, I got some mail in the post, and it actually was telling me that a 3-day festival was starting in the desert tomorrow. So I obviously went and checked on all our chickens, and there was an absolute crap ton of eggs. On day 127, we had a visit from Emily, and she seemed like she really liked the farm. She basically was going to allow us to use her sewing machine at her house for completely free, and to experiment with our style. Later that day, I decided I was going to go and try and do some fishing, and we got our first largemouth bass. After that, we went to bed and we actually got to level 5 fishing, and we decided we would go for the Fisher perk, which allowed fish to be 25% more expensive. On day 128, we took our first trip to the Calcio Desert, and there was actually the festival going on. This was the first time it happened, the festival, so I didn't know what was going on, but the chef said he would make me a cool dish for me. So it cooked something up, and it turned out that I was going to have a kebab, which was pretty tasty. I then decided I was going to go and try and do the Skull Cavern Challenge. Basically, I had to collect these eggs, and I could use these eggs for some certain prizes. I didn't really understand it, but by the end of the day, I had a few eggs. On day 129, the second day of the Calcio Desert, Emily wanted to give me a makeover, and it turned out that this was the outfit that she gave me. I looked like an elf. I literally looked like an elf. So I got rid of that real quick, and I bought some things with the eggs I had gathered. We bought a fireplace, a rug, and a few other things to decorate our house. On day 130, I decided I was going to go and find the big chest recipe. Yes, this existed the whole time and I never knew about it. I can't believe this, but now I am the owner of a few big chests. I decided I was going to try and rejuvenise the farm a little bit. So I added some decoration, and I just kind of connected all the different parts of the farm with paths. And I feel like it looked a lot better. However, on day 31, I went, and it was actually the first time that we could actually complete another bundle. So we put in the spring crops bundle, and out of it we got some 20 speed grow. On day 132, I decided we would need a new coop, and then obviously I needed to plan ahead. So for summer we was going to need a lot more crop space. So I decided we would have another field of crops right by this little lake bit we have on our farm, and then I decided to put down some fertilizer and the rest of the crops that we own. On day 134, we looked like we had a little bit of an egg problem. There was a crap ton of eggs. I mean, literal crap ton. These chickens were producing, to be honest. I then cut down some more trees, and it was time to head to bed. On the next day, on day 136, it was time for the Summer Dance Festival. There was a few different items in the shop, and I collected ourselves a dandelion and a rare crow. However, I did not have a partner for this, so I kind of just watched, and then it was over, so I went to bed. On day 137, there was a lot of crops, and we was in the full swing of crops being grown just 24/7. It was great. I then decided it was time to get a new chicken, so I named him Tuckerbell. The little chicken was so cute, look at him! On day 139, it was actually time for parsnip and yam collection. We had so many crops to harvest, it was great. I then decided I was going to try and upgrade some of our existing buildings, so I decided I was going to upgrade this coop to a deluxe big coop, which was really cool. Spring was finally over. On day 141, it was the first day of summer. However, that meant all our crops had died. Literally every single crop except for one. So I went over to Pierre's and I bought some more seeds. We started off with some tomato seeds, some blueberry seeds, some pepper seeds, and of course some melon seeds, and planted all those pretty much everywhere I could. I then made sure to plant the lower field as well with a bunch of different seeds that I already had. And apparently I had this ancient fruit in my inventory. I have no idea where it's from. I then went to the mines and I got a new weapon. This weapon was apparently really good against slimes, which it seemed to be pretty good. Later that evening, it seemed like we had a little intruder on our farm. An owl was flying past in the pitch black darkness, and I decided to follow it. However, there was no time for owls. It was day 143, and I needed some more space, and I needed a lot more wood, so it was time to make a tree farm. I cleared a little area in the bottom left of our farm, and decided to put down a ton of different saplings. On day 146, I found out our peppers had finally grown, and then I wanted to build a new building, the slime hutch. To go along with this, I decided we was going to need some slime egg presses, which required a fire quartz, a battery pack, and then I also made some sprinklers for the bottom half of our farm. On day 148, Marlon came over to our house and he was talking about the slime hutch, which meant the slime hutch had finally been created. He told us there was a bunch of different slimes that we could acquire through just mining or finding them in the mines by killing other slimes. However, I made 2 slime eggs by putting 100 slime into an egg press, and we could actually hatch our own slimes, which was a cool experience. On day 149, I decided to plant these star fruits. I don't know where I got them from, but I had the seeds. And then I decided to plant some more peppers, as we needed to use as much as the summer as we could. On day 150, we had a letter in the post telling us that the luau was tomorrow. How better way to prepare for this than make some mayonnaise? That's exactly what I did. I then put down some electric rods so we could capture the lightnings and get some battery packs. However, I next got a message in the post saying a thing called an auto grabber existed. But first I wanted to go and check on the slime hutch. And look, we got our first little... Well, I murdered our first slime. Let's move on from this one. It was now time for the second year luau, and this time I was prepared. Last year we didn't have anything to put into the vat of the soup, I guess, but this time I had some Golden Star mayonnaise, and this was going to be the best food he had ever tasted. So the mayor came over and he seemed to really enjoy it. He said it was the best soup he's literally ever tasted. Our mayonnaise empire was growing, and everyone seemed to love it, you know? Literally everyone. He couldn't stop having it, so we actually smashed it. However, I didn't really get anything for it, but I had my mayonnaise, you know? On day 154, in the night, apparently there was an explosion. I also leveled up to level 9 foraging. I collected the battery packs from the lightning rods, and I went to inspect our farm. Apparently there was a meteorite that had landed on our farm. I don't exactly know what this is, but we got a lot of iridium from it, so that was pretty cool. Later on during that day, I went over to our community centre and it was time to finally put in our summer crops bundle. So we put in our pepper, blueberry, melon, and a tomato. And then a train was passing through Stardew Valley, so I went and had a look what it dropped. And apparently there was a treasure chest by this rock. I don't know, but it sold for 5,000, so we made bank that day. $26,000, we're rich! However, on day 155, a lot of the crops had started to bloom. A sturgeon frenzy had started in the mountains, so I went and took this opportunity while I could. I didn't own a sturgeon, so we went and caught as many as I could. We finally got a sturgeon. However, it was time to probably upgrade, so I went and I bought the lava katana for 25,000, and then I made a glowstone ring to go with it. On day 156, there was the green moss rain. I still don't know what this is, but we mined as many trees as I could and got a few different items from it. The next day, we got a secret message and it said take some maple syrup to the secret woods, and there was a bear. I don't know, the bear could apparently talk. Apparently he was going to tell us some secret forest magic, and he taught us the ability to... I don't really know what the lesson was. He just gave us special knowledge, and salmon berries and blackberries are now times 3 times the gold. I mean, it's pretty good knowledge to me. We then completed the bundle and got ourselves a quality sprinkler. And then spent the rest of the evening trying to do some fishing, and we got ourselves our first super cucumber. During that night, Tammy gave birth to a baby cow. I then went over to the museum and donated a few items I had laying around. And as a reward, we got a flute block, which apparently made noise, I don't know. On day 159, I decided it was time to go and get a bunch of ores. So I headed over to the mines with our loads of bombs, and it was time to get to work. I decided it was time to get as much gold ore and other ores as possible, and we eventually leveled up our mining to level 10 and made gems worth 30% more. On day 165, I decided we were probably going to need some more room, so I built myself, aka Robin built, a shed for me, which is going to be really cool for us and allow us to store so many more things. So I wanted to get some crystallariums. Now these were going to produce a jade for us, as eventually they would become in handy later on during the 100 days. After the shed had been built, I decided we'd probably need another shed, so I went to Robin again and built a second shed. I then placed some paths in our little tree farm and went to visit the slime hutch, which had been producing a load of slimes. It was time for the moonlight jellies, and there was a load of different things in the shop, so I bought a few of each. We then took in the beauty of the moonlight jellies. Look at all the little jellyfish. It's a nice little event, this one. With the moonlight jellies finally over, it was time for the end of summer and the start of fall. We'd collected so much money, and literally the summer had been booming for our progress. So with the start of autumn and day 169, we had to clear a load of crops. Old dead crops from summer. I then put up some of the decoration that we got from the moonlight jellies into our house, and I went to Pierre's and bought a crap ton more seeds. Of course. I then planted a million different seeds, all in a different arrangement around the farm, and I decided to make use of our second storage area. So I decided to move everything to do with the mayonnaise production into our new little shed. I'd also made some looms, as this was going to be able to make us some premium grade cloth. However, I decided we're probably going to need some fish for making some deluxe fertilizer. So we'd start growing our own fish, so I put a largemouth bass into this pond, and we could start to slowly get bass numbers. I then planted some flowers and some speed grow fertilizer to make a little honey aka beehive farm, which was going to be really cool for us and produce some crazy good quality honey. On day 174, I decided I was going to go over to the bookseller and buy The Way of the Wind Part 1. This was going to allow us to run a little bit faster, so I ran all the way over to Marnie's and buy some heaters for our upcoming winter for all our different animals. I then made a few more crystallariums and put them in here as well and made sure that they was producing jade. We then donated some items and I got this cool little bear statue. I don't know, I just thought it was really cool. On day 182, for donating a certain amount of items to our museum, Gunther came over and they was telling us about amazing different resources that we had given and all the different items that we had donated to the museum, and he was very appreciative of it. However, he gave us a rusty key and I knew exactly what this went to. So I went over to the sewers and this was crazy. It was so cool. We had this little guy over here, his name was Krobus, and he sold a unusual selection of items. So he told us how he's been living in the sewers for a very long time, and he was selling some void essence, some solar essence, some bat wings, and a void egg. We can actually get some void chickens, which is going to be really cool for us. There was also this statue over here which allowed us to reset our certain skill points. So I made sure to reset the farming and then we could select our new profession. So we got a tiler and then we got the artisan, which would allow us to get 40% more for our products. Our mayonnaise empire was going to be booming. However, it was actually the day of the Stardew Valley Fair. So we went over there and I bought a few different things after playing a few different mini games, such as the shooting one right here. With my Stardew Valley tokens, I know I needed to buy a rare crow, so I did exactly that. It was then time to get judged by Mayor Lewis on whether our quality products were good enough. And we actually came in second place with a rating of 85. However, as our prize, we got some star tokens. Great. On day 185, our fish production had slowly increased and we had finally got some largemouth bass roe, which was really cool. We also got some fairy roes, which sold for so much. So I put down some more bee houses as we needed some more money. On day 187, I decided it was time to complete the full crops bundle. And then I went over to the little bookseller and got Way of the Wind Part 2, so we could run even faster. Our honey production was in full swing. Our fairy honey sold for so much money. It was great. It was so good. I wish I could build more, however I didn't have the resources. I did however have the resources for these iron fences, so I decided I would go around all the different coops and barns and put down some iron fences all around. I then went over to Community Centre and completed our last bundle. This would allow us to unlock the greenhouse as a reward and complete the pantry community area. So the pantry had now been completed and we got ourselves a 4th star. 4 stars out of 6. Our community centre was going crazy and I've done a little celebration with our little Dynamo friend, even if I did try to stab him, but we'll get past that point. During the night there was a raccoon apparently living in our greenhouse. I don't know, but the Dynamos magically fixed it for us. And then on day 192 I went to check it out. Look at our little greenhouse we have here. It's pretty big. It's actually a pretty big greenhouse. I then made some iridium sprinklers which I was going to put in the greenhouse along with another seed maker. I then went back over to Clint's and collected my golden axe which I had been upgrading. I went over to Pierre's and dropped in some crops and he gave us 2,500 gold for it, which is crazy. I then went to visit Willie in his little fishing shop and bought myself an iridium rod. However, when I went back to check on the chickens, there was a little void chicken. Look how cute he is. This guy is freaking adorable. However, it was day 195 and it was time for the Spirit's Eve, so I bought the next scarecrow we would need and completed the second stage of the maze. It was very spooky. I found a little chest and I got a little ticket from it, which was pretty cool. However, there wasn't really much else in the Spirit's Eve, so we headed to bed for that evening. However, during that evening, I snuck out and I bought myself a star drop from Krobus, and that was going to allow us to increase our energy bar, which was really useful. On day 197, it was the first day of winter, and I had no crops that I could put down. I literally had no crops, which was crazy. A train then started passing through, and to my surprise, it was a Christmas train. Look at this! It was so cute! It was actually so cool. I loved it. As I was checking on all my animals, we had another new arrival. We had another little baby void chicken. Look at him! They're so cute. I then went to visit Emily, and she was having a dream in her house. And somehow I ended up in her dream. I don't really know what was going on at this point, but I just kind of accepted it, you know? She was telling me some secrets about her, and that was it. I then went over to Robin's to eventually upgrade our barn to a big deluxe barn. On day 203, we headed over to the Calcio Desert to buy 1,000,000 staircases with all our jades that we had been duping. And then went through, used all the staircases as far as I could to get down to nearly as close to level 100 as possible, and try and get as much as iridium. So I obviously had a load of bombs on me, and we could farm a absolute crap ton of iridium. We were so rich, we was literally going to be so rich after this. And after that, we had finally got down to level 100 in the Skull Caverns. So we found this mysterious guy, and this was Mr. Q? I don't know. He had some wiggling like things in his base here. This was very strange. I don't know, but he told me to drink this purple milk, and apparently it was an iridium snake milkshake. I don't know. I drank it, I felt a little bit sick, but I did increase my health permanently by 25 HP points, which was pretty cool. He said good luck out there, kid, and left me alone in the Skull Caverns to continue. After that long day of mining, I decided it was probably best if I go back and try and smelt some of the ores I had, and I also picked up this prismatic shard. I don't know exactly what it was for, but it looked really cool and rare, so I kept it on me. On day 204, it was time for the Ice Festival. Now last time I got absolutely smoked, and we wasn't gonna allow me to lose it this time. So I cast my reel, and I started to catch as many fish as possible. By the end of it, I had 5 fish and nearly got a 6th. Would this be good enough to win? I hope so. And eventually I found out that I actually did win. We got first place. So we got a sailor's hat, a dress spinner, and a few other different tackles as well, which was really cool to get. I can't believe I actually won something. I've actually won an event. But I actually can't believe it. I really can't. I'm still going to beat Abigail next year. On day 205, I read in a note that if I took a prismatic shard, something would happen here. And my screen went sparkled, and I had a sword. I had a galaxy sword. Apparently this was one of the best swords you could get in the game, which I don't know how that happened, but yeah. I then went to visit this tree stump which had fallen over during the night, and it said that I needed 100 pieces of hardwood to do it, so I had to go and collect some hardwood. During this day, however, the Squid Festival had started in town, so I went and I challenged myself to try and get as many squid as possible, at least 8 for the first day. So we went out and caught as many squids as I could. Luckily there were some bubbles here, so it made catching these things a lot easier. After collecting all 8 squids that I would need, I went over to collect my rewards and we got the Art of Crabbing books, which would allow me to get double harvests in crab pots, which was pretty cool. On day 209, I decided it was probably about time that I put the actual greenhouse to use. So I fertilised all the floor and put down a load of different coffee beans. Coffee is really good as you can make coffee and turn it into triple espresso, which will give you a massive speed boost. I also put down some cranberries as we could dehydrate the cranberries and make some good money from those. I then put some iron fences around our tiny little coops here. And I put down some little paths, some little stepping stones, just a cute little detail all the way over to the doors. I'm pretty sure the chickens would appreciate it in summer and fall and spring. Later that evening, I found out it was actually time of the winter market. So this year, I decided to go in with a decent chunk of cash. I had about 12 grand to spend. There wasn't really anything that I needed though from here. I had a look what there was for sale, but I didn't really find much that I could buy. However, this time I could actually afford to go down in the submarine. It cost 1,000 gold, but we could get some unique fish down here. So once I'd made it all the way down to the bottom of the ocean floor, the little bottom of this opened up. I don't know how this works, don't question it. But we got ourselves our first spookfish, and then we got ourselves a blobfish. These crazy fish, I don't know what to say. But after that, it was time to try and get some sleep. However, we did level up to level 10 foraging in that time. This would come in handy as basically every single forageable item we would get would actually be iridium quality, which was really good and would earn us a crap ton of money. We then put down a second barn and I got this chicken statue. I don't know, apparently it was an artifact, so I took it over to the little museum, and for myself I got a chicken statue as a reward. Like, I don't know, did I want a chicken statue? I have it now. And then on day 216 I went over to our little farmhouse, collected some beans and went to visit Clint and to break open some geodes. I ended up getting a second prismatic shard, which was really cool. I then took some fish over to our little community centre and put in a few different fish that I had already caught. We put in a bullhead, a largemouth bass, a carp and a sturgeon, and that completed the lakefish bundle. For our reward, we got a dressed spinner, and that was going to allow us to catch a bunch of different fish. I then went over to Pierre's and bought a dehydrator. It was a very cool thing to buy. Now, I decided to put a few of these down as I was going to be able to dehydrate cranberries for 10 times the price. These cranberries sold for like 2,463. Crazy amount of money. And it took over the hardwood pieces that I needed to try and fix the stump. And apparently I made a house. I don't really know. It looked like a cool little house though. The next day I came back and apparently somebody had moved in. It was a little raccoon that was living underneath our greenhouse. He asked me for some fish materials, but I didn't have anything he needed, so I would have to do that at a different time. I started up by brewing some coffee, and this was going to allow us to have a speed boost around the farm just constantly, which was going to be so good to get around with. I then went over to the slime hutch and everything had degraded, so I quickly got out of there as soon as possible. I then went over to our little greenhouse and some of the coffee had started to grow, which was a really good sign. I then made some more kegs as coffee production was going to be a major part. On day 221, it was actually Christmas Day. It was the day of the Winter Festival, and I decided to have a look what that was. I bought some different types of trees. However, last year, our Christmas kind of got spoiled when I got a piece of clay as our present. So I was hoping for better luck this year. I found out it was time for our gift, and this year we got given a bottle of wine. A better present, I have to admit. We received a bottle of wine as our present, and Elliot It was very nice. It was very, very nice. On day 224, it was our final day of this 100 days. I feel like we had progressed quite a lot in this 200 days. Our first one, we couldn't use any, obviously, crops or anything like that. And the second one, it was unchained. We was allowed to grow as many different crops. And I feel like we completed quite a lot in this 200 days. But yeah, that was the farm. I hope you enjoyed the 200 days. And for our last night, it was time to head to bed. Thank you all for watching this 100 days of Stardew Valley. Technically 200 days of Stardew Valley. We will be doing another one. We're going to be doing a 300 days of Stardew Valley. We're just going to keep going until we at least get to perfection on the farm. But other than that, I hope you guys enjoyed, and I will see you in the next one. Peace. Goodbye.